that everybody?
Are you going to make Rachel run the microphone?
Maybe.
Rachel's going to host it tonight?
Is that everybody?
No, there's more people coming. I gave him a warning.
Okay.
There's more coming. Unless he was going to eat, in which case maybe there's not one. But there's a whole bunch of them at the bar, too. So.
All right, online people.
Yes, or you?
There's no video right now. That's why you don't see any video.
Well, I'm happy to do it. Rachel wants to do it.
Yes, sir. What do you have to say?
All right, anyone online, send me a message if you are getting the video or the audio rather. There's no video yet.
Oh, yeah, it's so funny. There's another one. Yeah, absolutely hysterical.
Like I don't Oh no, for that one.
Put up back here, you up there. Get behind.
That's a fair point. All right, 2-minute warning. One. Okay. Yeah, I'll come back.
Who's doing the chat?
Well, I will.
Okay, I was about to say, 'cause, yeah, I was sure there's a starting. What's up, man?
What? Who the hell are you? I know. What's going on here?
Yeah, the middle part is real pretty. Back to work tonight. He's here. They don't hurt him. They don't have anything in this whatsoever. Face to face, they don't have a second.
Because when they read it,
But still, there's a
Yeah, exactly, right there, right like that, and that's volume. Comprende? Okay. What? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll come back once we. You should be up there. Yeah. You got better stories.
There you go. I'll be sitting right there. You can right. I'll get it for you.
All right, everybody. I'll try not to stand under the speaker. Thank you. I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to give, where's Dave? Remember, if you hear loud noises, turn the thing down. Okay. Yeah, anyway. For anyone that's new, I'm Shane Terpstra, Director of Safety for Plus One Flyers. I'm going to turn it over real quick because as you can see, we have a big panel. So the way this is going to work is we're going to, I'm going to give them a chance to tell us how bad everyone is. And then once that's done, then you guys can jump in and tell them how bad you are. So what I'll do is I'm not going to probably pass the microphone around because I've got people online listening. So what I'll do is we'll just come back, or if you yell your question, I'll repeat it. And then the people online have a little link that they can go to. I mean, you can do it here too, but there's a link they can go to ask questions. So with that, I'm going to do some quick introductions here. See if I can actually remember this. Ian from SoCal, Empire Sector. Fish from San Diego Sector, also SoCal. Mia, Empire Sector. Conway, San Diego. All right, now we're going to Brown. Yeah, Mark at Brown Tower.
That's right.
I should have put the COVID shields up here.
That's why I'm in the middle, so I can watch all the corners.
We got Mike from Montgomery Tower. And we have Sam from Montgomery Tower.
That always seems fair.
Shauna doesn't count. It doesn't count when you clap, buddy. That doesn't count. We got Mike from San Diego Lindbergh. And then we got Brandon from Palomar. Krista from Ramona. Chris and Rob both from Gillespie. All right, so I'll tell you what. We only have 3 of these guys. It's working, good. I'm going to hand this to you. You can start off, you can pass it on, you can say whatever you want. I'll delete everything.
Right. Well, first and foremost, thank you for paying our bills, right? So without you guys, we don't have a national airspace system. I like to think that every airman operating in the NASA is professional, even starting off at the novice level. But I will say this, every flight starts on the ground. So before you take off, before you get in the air, look at the weather, look at the NOTAMs, look at everything you have going on that's going to affect your flight. Make sure that you're able to articulate what it is that you need from the controls so they can give you the best service possible. And if you can't figure it out, if you have something going on, go back to the airport, right? Figure it out, fly another day. It's all those things you guys learned when your flight instructors with aeronautical decision making, right? So always go back to those fundamentals because when, let's say for instance, when the weather's bad, right? Along those foothills or out here on the coast, you say, oh, I'm going to try and go to Camarillo today. I'm going to go VFR. Do you have an instrument rating? Oh, well, no, right? You tax the system, right? Everything we do and say is recorded. We're trying to give you the best service possible. But when you need IFR, you get yourself in a precarious situation that you shouldn't be in, the controls now have to do a lot of three-dimensional work to make sure we are able to take care of you, right? So the biggest thing I say that what we have going on is a partnership, right? So from the towers to the TRACONs to where you're going even into the center structure, look at whatever thing's going on. If you need help, ask. If you need something from us, say something. If you can't do it, say unable, right? That's one thing I don't hear a lot of pilots do. I'll give you a quick story time. Captain calls today and wasn't pleased with the service that he received. And I said, it's a two-way street. You know, controller sped him up. He wanted to slow down. Okay, well, if you got the flaps out already, say unable, right? PICs, you all have a responsibility to fly your airplanes. Okay, we're not up there with you. We like to think, some of us, we know what's going on in the cockpit, but we don't. You have ultimate responsibility for your airplane, right? So if you can't do something, say something. That way we can give you the best service possible. If you're unhappy with it, you have the numbers to call, right? But understand that everything is recorded, okay? I've gotten a lot of phone calls where I get one story, then when I pull up the tapes, it's a whole different story, right? And I've even gone as far as send the recording to the pilot saying, hey, you said this, but you did X, Y, and Z, right? So again, it's a transparency. It's a relationship what we have on both sides of the mic. So thank you for doing what you guys do. We hope we're giving you guys the best service possible, and yeah.
I didn't know we had to prepare a speech. I'm Fish from San Diego area. It's good to see you guys here. Concerned about safety. I just became eligible to retire, and I'm still focused on safety. I'm here to actually hear from you guys, hear some of you guys' concerns. I always want to learn from the pilots what you guys are up against, what kind of concerns you have, so I can help you navigate the skies. So just Conway's also in my area here, and he actually took notes, so he's got some stuff for you guys. But I'll pass
I
it
only
on.
got one page, I got like 8.
We know.
You have 8 pages?
I took some out.
Oh, thanks. Hi, I'm Mia from the Empire area. I work with Ian here. Basically, El Monte to Palm Springs, Big Bear to Fallbrook. Big area in the middle with practice approaches. Many moons ago, I was a flight instructor before I became a controller. So if there are specific questions for the practice approaches, why things or how we can make things easier for you, a little bit of feedback on the other side. I have a soft spot for flight training that not everyone has, but I understand both points of view. It's frustrating on both sides many times. You're trying to get stuff done. You have limited time. That's why our airspace is very conducive to flight training a lot of times, but then you show up, you go all the way out there, and then we say no. And I understand why that would be frustrating, but I would also like to explain the reasons behind some of that, ways to get more of what you want done in a more expeditious manner. So if you have questions about that, I would be happy to answer. And that's it. Nice to meet you.
Conway from San Diego area. Sure, some of you know me from the other briefings that we've had. So I just want to go over those things again. Keep reiterating the IFR versus VFR approaches, practice approaches, how you can get more of them, daytime versus nighttime, when you can accomplish more things that you need to help us, basically help us help you. Class Bravo, I think one of the briefings we were at, it was brought to my attention that some of you don't know when to ask. Like you're asking and we're jumping on you like, hey, no, don't ask now. Or by the time you get to the Bravo, we're like, hey, do you want to go through the Bravo? So that helped us a lot to kind of understand, oh, they really don't know. So San Diego area, 25-3, 27-3 when you're coming from the north, that's always a good time to ask. You're getting within, I think we said 15 to 20 miles of it, good time to ask. Just let us know. Practicing near finals, when you're out there BFR not talking to anybody, please learn the BFR pilots, learn the finals entire areas so you know where not to go. Daigle, what's another one, Fish? Well, ESCON, please don't practice around ESCON. There was someone yesterday practicing at Axon at 3,800 feet.
Steve Turner. On that note, about 4 to 5 miles off the departure into Palomar is a really bad spot.
Yeah, and that's, we talk about that a lot, those practice approach areas. So for VFR pilots, please get out there, learn some of the approaches, at least know where you are in the vicinity to them. Like Ian was saying, plan ahead. Weather, NOTAMs, alternative approaches, alternative airports. Have a plan B, have a plan C. I'm not a pilot. I don't know what training you go through, but I am a controller. I have to have a plan B, C, D. If it doesn't work, what do I have to do? So do that and turn it over to you, Mark. You try to keep it brief.
Big bad wolf.
This is for you. That clapping was for you.
Yep.
I wrote down the names of everyone who booed. That's right. So Mark from Brown, I was wondering how many people knew me, and then now I know how many people know me. So, contrary to common or popular belief, apparently, I don't go to work every day thinking how I can annoy people, or you know, I go to work every day to hopefully get everybody home safely at the end of the day. Y'all don't make it easy all the time, so I get that you like to come down. We have the big runway. You know, we're south of the Bravo, so you know it's conducive to training. I think for the most part, you guys do pretty good. I think for the most part, we do pretty good. When the two not so goods meet, that's when we start getting the issues. I wrote a few things down. I actually made a PowerPoint because last year Montgomery had a PowerPoint and all the rest of us looked silly. So this year I made a PowerPoint and now I look silly because I have PowerPoint slides. Thanks. Call signs are a big thing, right? So this is good, right? Because we're face to face and we can talk. And after this, you can come up and you could shake my hand or whatever you want to do. I'm pretty sly, but we you know, this is good. This is communication. But when you're in the cockpit, all we have is the radio communications. I can't see your face. I can't see your gestures. You can't see me pointing at the prison when I told you to go to the prison, right? Like, you're supposed to be over there. You can't see what I'm doing. So we have to be better on the radios. You know, and it starts with the call. It starts with a call sign, a full call sign, and a type is good. I've seen a big habit now where people are saying they're a piper. There's a lot of pipers, and there's a lot of pipers that come into Brown. And if you're a Cherokee or an Archer or an Arrow or a Cub or a Pacer, I got to treat you differently. So if you say piper, I'm going to say what kind of piper. So just save me the trouble. Just tell me what you are. Most of those you can say you're a Cherokee. I don't even need to get into the minutia of what kind. Unless you're one with retractable gear, then that's good to know. So I can keep an eye on you on file and make sure the gear's down when you come to the runway. So that's the big thing. The ATIS. Saying you got the ATIS isn't good enough for us. I need the ATIS code. If you say I have the ATIS, I'm going to ask you what ATIS. If you say you got the numbers, I'm going to ask you what ATIS you got. I know the book, even our book says the numbers is sufficient, runway wind altimeter. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the airspace that's on the ATIS. Right? So just do us all a favor, get the ATIS, save us a couple of transmissions. Know where you are, know where you're going. I'll tell stories because I tell stories. I had an aircraft the other day and no transponder, right? So hard to see on the target. And I think our main target, our main radar was down, right? So we're using Pendleton's radar and my coverage is terrible. And I tell the aircraft to go to Pogey, right? Because I have F-18s in mount. I got a lot of F-18s. I got a lot of fast movers down there. So we have to make a plan. Tell them to go to Pogey. Going to go to Pogey. I don't see them. The F-18s are, you know, screaming into the downwind. Like, where are you? We're just north of Pogey. Okay, perfect. F-18s will go by. She'll come in behind them to the downwind. Not a problem at all. I don't see her. I should see her at Pogey. I got the binos out. She's not at Pogey. Oh, she's over at the prison. Right where the F-18s are going to turn their baseline, right? So I know they sound similar, Pogey prison, but they look very different. So, you know, honest mistake, right? I didn't get mad at her. I got mad at the situation because now I've got an aircraft where I don't expect an aircraft to be with some fast movers, and I just got to make sure everyone's okay. The ones that really get me is I say, go to the prison, and they say, I'll go to the prison, and I see them tracking not to the prison. And well, maybe they'll turn. Maybe they'll turn. They don't turn. Do you know where the prison is? No. Like, come on. If I say something to you, if I give you an instruction, if I tell you to report something, and you don't know what I said, because I can speak fast, or you don't know where it is that I'm telling you to go, you don't know where the prison is, or you don't know where Pogey is, please tell me as soon as I tell you. Don't just fly and think it'll all work out, because you will end up in front of F-18s or in front of a Galaxy jet when you should be behind it, because that's what my plan is. So just talk to me. I may sound frustrated that you don't know where something is, but I'd rather be frustrated at the front end that you don't know where something is than scrambling at the back end to make sure that, you know, everyone gets out of there safe. So just talk. We'll talk about surveys here in a minute, but we have some surveys. Ramona's got some, I've got some. And then we get feedback on the surveys from time to time. I see comments. Some are good, some are bad, whatever, you know. I'm either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever, right? So it's somewhere in the middle. I can live with that. One of the surveys, though, a comment I actually wrote down, Cessna 172, he's like, I'm a Cessna 172, it's 8,000 feet of runway. I turn early and the tower gets mad at me for turning early. I don't need 8,000 feet of runway. Y'all are coming down there because I have 8,000 feet of runway to train your students, okay? So you want the big runway, but you don't really want the big runway. You want to turn early, you want to make short approaches. I'll say this, I have no problem with that. What I want you to do is ask, right? So barring a request from you or something else, when you get on the go, you should go past the end of the runway and climb up to pattern altitude, turn crosswind, turn downwind. Keeps everybody happy, we all know what to do. I would point at the PowerPoint slide now with the parts of the aim that tell you that that's what you're supposed to do. I get it if there's no ask. I'll turn you early. The quicker you get around and do your pattern, not that I'm happy to see you go, but the shorter time you spend with me, right? You get your stuff done fast and you go. And then there's time for the next person that wants to come in. And, you know, it keeps everything flowing good. If you want something out of the ordinary, if you want an early turn, if you want a short approach, if you need to fly a lower downwind or a higher downwind. The Duchesses like to fly lower because they do their single engine ops and they fly a big pattern. Make the request, and if we can do it, we'll do it. I'm not here to tell you no. I just need to know. So I've got through most of this already. Look at that, how quick. I had some other stuff in here. Let me go to the last page. We talked about this the last time too, the hold short thing. So if you call up, tell me that you're holding short. Hold. It says 27 Romeo. I need your call sign with the hold short. Oh yeah, 27 Romeo. It's like, I need it all together. So yeah, it just drags everything out, and that's when I start to get grumpy. Down at the end of the runway, and you tell me, and this seems, you get to the end of the runway, and you call tower, and you say, it says 3927, get you out of the way, hold short runway 26 right. And now because again, I don't want to say it 3 times. One time. Some instructors were requesting the option. Clear you for the option, especially if there's other aircraft in the pattern. I like to know what the option is that you want. And we got comments that they asked for the option. Their intent is to make a full stop landing, but they want the option in case they have to go around. So please understand, if you want a full stop landing, just request a full stop landing. If there's something wrong with the approach, you can always go around. We'll send your whatever, that's fine, but don't request the option intending to land in case you have to go around. That makes no sense. See it? And then busy. So the wind. This is primarily an instructor down at Brown. Runway 26 left, the student read it back. Left close traffic, runway 26 left. Perfect. Goes down and my controller extends him down a little bit because there's something on the runway. So he's past a beam, 26 left, should be turning base. The controller clears him for touching our runway 26 left, and at that point, the student says he cannot accept runway 26 left because he's a student solo and he can't take the left runway. There's nowhere to take him, right? Off his right side is Mexico. There's foothills ahead of him. And all the stuff that we moved him over to the left for is on final for the right at this point, right? So he gets turned and he gets sent around on the runway. If he had told us on the upwind that he can't take the left, then we would have extended him upwind. We would have made a different plan. But he tied our hands. He read it back perfectly, but then he got somewhere and said, I can't do that, and it's in a bad spot. So please tell your students, if you're telling them they can't go to the left, I have no problem with that. If we tell them to go to the left, because we don't know that, and they can't, they need to tell us. It's great if they tell us when they enter the pattern, and we can plan for that. But certainly if we tell them to go to the left, say you can't go to the left, and we will make a different plan for them. I don't want to put them in a spot, I don't want to ruin their day, and put them in a spot where they can't do anything about it. Yeah, I think I'll cut it short on that, put some of this away. One last thing, hold short lines. Come on, people, hold short lines. If we ask you to hold short of something and you see some lines, if the broken lines are towards your aircraft, you can go through the broken lines. If the solid lines are there, stop. I know it can get confusing between the runways because I exit you from one and tell you to hold short of the other one and you see hold short lines and you'll stop. But there's another set of lines that'll stop you from that runway. So just, and we're watching and we're not going to let anything happen. But if the broken lines are towards you, you can go through them and then stop at the next set of solid hold short lines. All right, I think that's good for now. I got it warmed up for you.
What do you think?
Thank you, sir.
I'm Mike from Montgomery. Thanks, Mark, for all that. You covered a lot of the stuff that we do at Montgomery. Definitely hold short lines. We have that a lot. Runway 28 right is a precision instrument runway, which means it has a large protection zone, which means those hold short lines are pretty far south, pretty much like about halfway between the pilot runways. So, yeah, you might be off the runway for quite a while before you actually get to the associated hold lines. So, yeah, don't be confused. If they're dotted on your side, get across them, because then we have to, bring more attention to your aircraft when we got a whole bunch of other aircraft to worry about. I'm pretty sure everybody knows. This is mostly Montgomery crowd, right? So, yeah, you all know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, the first thing on our list is, radio etiquette list before you key up. The Montgomery cadence, it's typically real fast. The best time to jump in there is right after a pilot reads back an ATC instruction. If you hear a controller talk, don't key up after that. We got to get a read back. So jump in right after you hear that pilot read back. Let's see. What else we got here? You can stop me anytime you want to jump in. Let's see. We have some new position reporting spots. Spots 1 through 6 were just recently painted, about 2 weeks ago? They're basically really large yellow circles, about 10 feet wide or so, and they have a big number in them, spots 1 through 6. One is over near Sleepy Hollow, Texas Bravo. Spot 2 is what you're probably mostly familiar with, right there at Executive Air Park. It is in a terrible spot. I'll get to that in a second. Spots 3 and 4 are on the east and west side of Transient. Spot 5 is on Tax Week Kilo. Spot 6 is the southwestern part of the Coast Ramp. So it's basically they're not mandatory use. You can use them if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can still do what you've been doing for 20 years. But it's a quick and easy way to relay your current position or where you want to taxi to. Want to taxi spot 2. Taxi spot 5. Okay, back to spot 2. Spot 2 is probably what you're mostly familiar with because it's at the Executive Air Park. where we wanted to put it, the airport authority was like, no, we didn't want to encourage people taxiing over to that spot because the pavement is terrible. So maybe sometime down the line when they repave that area, we can move the spot over there. But for the time being, it is where it is. You're encouraged to use it. Don't go onto it and stop and then call us because you're going to be right in the middle of everything. You know, it's if you've noticed it by now, you've seen it's right in the lane. You know, so I mean, call near it, don't call on it. Let's see, I think that's about it for that. Go ahead.
What would a typical use of that be? Just saying, instead of executives, just saying taxi spot two?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Like Coast Spot 5 is redundant.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Coast Spot 5 is redundant. So you say you want taxi to Executive Park Spot 2, that's redundant. So you can say, hey, we're at ground, this is Cessna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at Golf 1, taxi Spot 2. Or you're taxiing out. You say a Cessna 734 Delta November. We're at Spot 2 for eastbound departure with Theta's, pop-up. So that's pretty much it. It's really mostly for Executive Airpark. It's in particular for maybe like the Armed Forces Flying Club or San Diego Flight Training. They park way in the back. So we issue taxi instructions, and then 5 minutes later they were finally out of the movement area. Whereas we've already taxied out a lot of aircraft and are surprised by this aircraft who we lost track of. So it's kind of a way to. It's especially helpful over on taxiway Kilo, where you have all the flat top and the Marigold area, and we'll have pilots that call for taxi, and they're right outside their hangar, and it takes them 5 to 10 minutes to get over to taxiway Gulf and Kilo. So they, will actually taxi over there to Spot 5 and call us there. So it's really helpful over there. I think that about covers it. Let's see. So you may have heard on the ATIS reduced services. So basically what that means is we may limit touch and goes, and this is due to staffing. Our staffing for years has been less than adequate. It is getting better. We've got new controllers coming in quite a bit this year. So we're going to be training a lot this year. But reduced services basically means we are really short on people and we don't want to get burnt out. So we may limit it to maybe like 3 touch and goes, or just cut off the pattern traffic altogether. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Any thought about bringing some of us back out of retirement?
That's above my pay grade.
No, Bob, no.
Let me give you a website to call, okay? Take my card.
Let's see. Okay, so runway 23, intersect runway. The position of runway 23 is ideal for runway exiting off of both 28 right and 28 left. Technically, you taxiway. Are we going to approve it? Yeah, 9 times out of 10. Yeah, we're going to approve it. Do you need to turn? Probably 10 times out of 10. Yeah. So do you need to exit runway 23? No, you do not. So this is a very common misconception, which is why we're bringing it up here. So you need to exit the runway that you landed on. That's the paragraph in the AIM. It talks about exiting the runway after landing. There's an entire paragraph on exactly what you're supposed to do. You didn't land on runway 23, you don't have to exit it. So you land on runway 28 left, we say turn left runway 23 and contact ground. We are expecting you to turn onto runway 23, exit runway 28 left, and turn on to 23 and stop. And then you call ground for further taxi. Now, are we gonna Now, are we gonna get upset if you turn on the hotel? No, probably not. It's probably fine. We do use hotel going westbound quite often for aircraft that park off Kilo or over at Coast. Sometimes just to keep the traffic moving on the ground, we'll send aircraft, hotel runway 23, then Foxtrot Golf. So yeah, you might be a conflict. So yeah, stay on 23. Yeah, we try to keep ground coordination with tower coordination. You know, we try to keep that pretty open. If we see a conflict developing, ground might say, "Hey, make sure you hold short of hotel." But we don't always miss it. Best if you just stay on 2-3. So I think that's it about that. You want to take over?
Sure. You done talking? Yeah. All right. Hi, I'm Sam. Oh, thank you.
Playing favorites in this.
Well, to be fair, I was an instructor with Plus One for 10 years, so a lot of these faces are familiar. Mike covered a lot. I will just do a few reminders then. A couple things that are helpful for us is when you're coming out to do pattern work, first call to tower, please let us know if you want touch and goes or full stops. That eliminates future multiple communications. So let us know, hey, I'm holding short 2-8 right for a full stop. Great. We all know what's going on. That's very helpful for us. I'm sure every single person up here will agree with me on this one. Please, instructors, take over when it's busy. When it's busy and we're doing 2-3 communications to your one student trying to get back, we get it that the students are learning, totally. But there's a time and a place. And when it is just slamming busy, please take over as soon as practical. You all know, you've been there. Kind of on Mike's point, we do have potentially a few new controllers coming over to Montgomery this year, which means that we're going to be training. Much like you guys letting your students make mistakes, we need to let our trainees make mistakes too. So, never assume, ask for clarification, trust but verify. You know, we're human, we make mistakes. Ask. If you're not sure, if something sounds fishy, we may be waiting for you guys to ask so that we can correct our trainee. So please. Let's see. Probably the last thing for us is we have our parallels pretty close together. Watch out for that drift on the upwind. It's real easy to drift into the other lane. So, yes? Ask for clarification. It kind of depends on the scenario. But, you know, verify you want me to do this.
I don't know that.
Verify.
Nice is overrated.
Nice is overrated. Just talk to us. You don't have to be nice. Verify XYZ. That's it.
I think I might have something on that.
Go for it.
So one scenario I can think of is you've been in the pattern for a while and you're on the downwind and you're not getting a clearance. Well, it's probably because the controller forgot about you or lost track of you or got busy with something else. You know, their priorities are not where they should be. You know, you're the priority, but they're giving priority to something else. So a really good thing that pilots could help us out with is don't ask if you're cleared to land. Don't do that. Like, we know what you want to do, but that's not helpful because the most likely scenario is the controller lost track of you. So a position report is way more helpful. You know, we're downwind a beam, or hey, we're extended downwind, you know, something like that. You know, you say that, and then the controller goes, oops, and they issue the landing clearance, you know, or the base turn, or whatever. Yeah, but we get questions a lot, and it's not helpful. You know what I mean? You know, it's if we know where you are, then yeah, we can verify that. But position report, hey, you know, we're 1 mile final, or you know, something like that would be a lot more helpful. Make sense?
Yeah. The last thing I got, and probably the one thing that will help us out the most, help you. Everybody's spending minimal time on the runway. When you land, take that first available exit, please, 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 please. Expect at Montgomery, especially between the hours of 10 and 4. There's going to be somebody on short final behind you, almost every time. So landing and getting off that runway as soon as you can is very, very helpful for us. To the extent practical, you know. Fly your airplane, but yeah. That's it from us. You got anything else? Okay. There you go.
All right.
Is he an instructor too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Respect.
All right. Okay.
So I'm Michael from Lindbergh. So we'll start off with if you see something wrong, say something. And many of you saw on the news, as an example, last week, United had a passenger in first class have a power bank catch on fire. We were one fire bag away on the aircraft from ditching and burning the 737 on the runway. However, God's graces, they had a fire bag on board. They threw the bag or the burning power bank into the bag, chucked it into the lavatory. 15 minutes after takeoff, plane's back on the deck, and everyone was safe, luckily. However, as we do the crash phone, being prepared, fire trucks are coming from every station in San Diego. There was a drop in the ball. And at the airport gates, we got fire trucks trying to get to the airport, and they can't get on the airport. All right, we get First Harbor Police is out there, get these fire trucks in, gate closes. FedEx pulls up a truck, they're unloading their aircraft. Now they're stuck at the gate trying to go out. Hazmat and their crew with 4 more trucks is at the gate, nose to nose with FedEx. Could you imagine the disaster that would have happened if they didn't have that fire bag? Because of the Swiss cheese failure of someone. Luckily, we had a controller in the tower. Could see, hey, we got an issue down here, and completely out. Hey, we have an issue down here with the fire trucks can't get into the aircraft. Transmission might do to help somebody out, to save a life, because you never know. So, with that said, being in Lindbergh we're in a soup bowl. And being down low, if you're behind, say, if you're off Montgomery and you're behind Mount Soledad, and you want to go offshore southbound, we can't hear you. All it is a bunch of static and garble. Once you start rounding the thing, if we don't have line of sight of you, we cannot hear you. If you're doing, let me back up. There is no thing called the Bay Tour. You make controllers at Lindbergh crazy when you call for the Bay Tour. Come on. You saying Bay Tour to us is speaking French. We have an idea, but we don't know. You want to go offshore? Great. You want to go over the top? Know which way you're headed. But either call us before you reach Mount Soledad. On Mount Soledad offshore and you pass La Jolla Cove. Because otherwise we cannot hear you. Same if you're going opposite direction, northbound offshore and you're at Sunset Cliffs. If you're at 300 feet, one static and garbage. But once you're up, we can hear you. And the main thing if you're flying in Lindbergh's Bravo is if you don't know what you're doing, tell us. The taxiway delta is on the east side of the tower, not the west side. But if you tell us you don't know what it is, we can coach you through it. Rather than us yelling at you afterwards, saying you're on the wrong side of the tower and you're face to face with a 737. And the reason we're doing that is we're pretending to be bug splatter on a 737. It is not a pre. Don't know anything, ask us. We will coach you through it because many of you love the views, love the tour, unofficially, but we can accommodate you, but you have to let us know if you're not familiar. And that's the main thing. Just ask. If you don't know something anywhere, just ask. And no, you cannot do practice approaches in the Lindbergh without getting sent to the FBO. You can try, but you have a better chance at winning the Powerball. So, if you want, you can fly in. We're more than happy to work you in, but you will get sent to the FBO 99 out of 100 times, if not more. It's just the way it goes.
Touch and go is a fine, right?
Touch and go is not a fine. And I was talking to my table. This random gray area between all of us in this room and online. All right, he said I can't tell him. He's holding the secret to himself then.
Do most of the people know that when Island Tower closes on the weekend, that becomes Class B airspace and you control that airspace? Because Island Tower controls the airspace while they're operating, so on a weekend, if the tower is closed and they go through that little section of the bay, they're going into Class B airspace without permission.
He is correct. There is,
People here know that.
from Shelter Island all the way to about where the Midway is, Lindbergh owns that little triangle of the bay. And if you run through it, you are violating Class Bravo. However, because North Island on your behalf is coordinating with us every time you fly through. So for example, if you're flying offshore through the Bravo, and we tell you to contact Island Tower, you go around Point Loma, cut through the bay. Island Tower calls us and tells us,
Are they still open or are they closed?
even when they're open,
Is there someone in the cab up there?
so when they're closed, there's nobody in the cab. But when they're open, they call us.
What do you mean, when it actually closes?
When they close, it becomes uncontrolled airspace.
Class B airspace.
And that's when you're going to have a chance of busting. But 9 times out of 10, we'll work you in the uncontrolled airspace. So you'll go offshore southbound.
This is going through the harbor.
Yep, all the way through the harbor. We'll work you. We'll work you uncontrolled. So we'll remain Lindbergh's frequency. We'll keep you around the bay, and we won't put you in a position where you're going to get yourself in trouble and bust Class Bravo without it. But once again, if you see something, say something. And if you have questions, speak up and ask, because it's better than someone saying, contact Lindbergh Tower, possible pilot deviation, because nobody wants that from your end, and we sure as heck don't want the paperwork on our end. So that's all I got from Lindbergh, and we'll pass it on.
Yeah, we brought our own mic down here. This one's clean now. That's right. Anyway, I'm Brandon from Palomar. Thanks for having us and for dinner. Yeah, so at this point, I mean, there's not a whole lot left to cover, but at Palomar, we've got... Palomar's fun. I love Palomar. I actually soloed there in 1996. That's how long I've been there. So it's kind of my second home. So I remember when Plus One started to have Palomar operations. That was pretty neat. And it's just really grown since then, which is pretty cool. So one of the things for Plus One, though, of course, is since your planes are all in that back area, kind of back behind the terminal, there's a whole non-movement area back there, and it's kind of confusing sometimes. You go down Taxi Lane Charlie, like, what do you want me to do to go around here? And frankly, I don't care because it's a non-movement area. We don't own it. But we do actually kind of work you back there a lot because, you know, we're trying to make it orderly because you can't see who's coming around the corner and they can't see you, right? So that Taxi Lane Charlie is a non-movement area, and there's been that sterile area there from when we had airline service back when things were good. And the airport was a little touchy about crossing that yellow paint, right? It was a SIDA. You had to have a special authorization to go in there. But now that, well, we got Taos there, but that's not really an airline. But you can go in there a little bit. You can pass each other on Charlie. I don't know if anybody's tried to do that. They don't seem to care, and neither do we. So, fun tip for you. But yeah, other than that, I mean, Palomar, we've got some kind of weird isms up there. So we got one runway, that's it, and that's sort of good. And it also makes things real tough sometimes too, because we're mixing Piper Cubs and Piper whatevers with Gulfstream 6s that are coming from other continents at the same time. So we've got a lot of wake turbulence issues. We've got a lot of spacing issues. So one of the things that we have up there, you know, our volume is pretty high, but one of the things we do differently is we're working you really far out, like 10, 15 miles sometimes, which for a smaller tower is actually pretty far to be working out. And it's also, we set it up so that it works. So at Palomar, you land, and because of the airline thing, you've probably all noticed that those hold lines are painted like way far off the runway. Like you have to go onto Alpha, right? You can't just kind of hold short of it like you're going to cut someone off. And we know that. So as controllers, like that's a Palomarism, and that's something that everyone's taught to do. They're going to stop their people for you. So if you're coming off the runway and it really looks like that jet barreling down Alpha is not going to stop, then okay, stop and say something. If you see something, say something. But for the most part, yeah, we're going to stop, and we should tell you that. Like turn left at Alpha 4, the jet's going to hold for you, taxi on to Alpha and contact ground. But it feels really uncomfortable, you know, to people that are new to Palomar. But that's those Part 139 standards where that runway safety area has to be, it's like 250 feet from the runway center line. So unfortunately, before all those rules existed, a lot of those FBOs built buildings and ramps a little further into that than they should have been. So one of the things we also have to deal with is all the tows, because if they want to move from one ramp to another, they got to go out on Alpha. So you're mixing, you come off Alpha 4 hot, and there's a tow right there, right? So that's kind of just one of the weird congested things that we have at Palomar. So a lot of people also, and I'm going to say this, is a reverse high speed. And a lot of people try to just hit the brakes and make that real huge turn to go backwards to shorten up their taxi down to Charlie. That really takes a long time, and we would prefer you just take Alpha 4. That's why freeway off-ramps are that way. It's why taxiways are that way. It's at an angle so you can keep going fast. And if we don't care if you take Alpha 3, we'll say it. Like, hey, Alpha 3 or 4, your choice, contact ground. But Alpha 4 is better. Like, always take a forward high speed. It's sort of one of those unwritten rules. Just always take a forward high speed. You know, but other than that, you know, Palomar's fun. I love working there. I've been there for 13 years, and I've been a CFI there for 22 years, I think now. So I've been around at Palomar for a long time, and it's a second home, and it's a really fun place, and that's why I've been there for so long. So you know, we welcome you all to fly there, and we have a lot of pattern work and a lot of training, and you know, at the tower, I think everyone said this up till now, there's a lot of training in air traffic right now too. We had some big staffing problems coming out of COVID, and whether it was from COVID protocols themselves or from people finally getting to move around to different facilities, there's just a lot of training going on coming back. So and I hope you can appreciate that, because again, it's the same thing. When you got to let your student go so far before they make a mistake and then eventually you jump in there, we do the same thing. A lot of people don't really realize that. So I've heard it. But we have to do it all live on the job. So I mean, I wish we could use it, but you know, whatever. There are simulators, but it's not the same, you know. So we're doing it all live, you know, with you all. So we know training's happening on both sides. Palomar's a training airport. Montgomery's a training airport. I'm going to see if I'm so on. So if anybody would ever like to come by and talk about stuff at Palomar and kind of show you how we all do it.
My name is Tower. The tower that I've been taking notes as we go along here. And we just had our runway safety action team meeting this last week. One of our issues we've had this past year with issues was expectation bias, where the other local airports have it. I choose to not implement it at the tower because when we are single staffed, you are not allowed to have line up and wait operations, and they're staffing challenges. And when we are short staffed, we don't want to make the mistake of telling someone they can line up and wait and then having it come back and bite us in the back end where they did so. So we've had I think there was 2 issues this past year. There was a few the year before where we told an aircraft to hold short, or pilot to hold short of the runway, and they got into position and they held there, and then we had to send someone around. So that's something I wanted to bring to your attention. Make sure when you're given an instruction that you actually listen to the instruction, and that your hear back, read back is actually what was said. So runway So not right now. The load for him. Never let them. It's probably just the controller, one controller that doesn't feel like doing them. We do have workarounds with that too. If approach tells you that Ramona is unable to take GPS 9 approaches, you can just call us at AXOC, and hopefully no one's doing steep turns at AXOC, and let us know, and we'll either need to come inbound for an approach, or we'll just take you and tell you to maintain VFR and then call them later. Student pilots, yay, me too. So weeks ago, yay. It only took me 9.5 years watching everything to finally work up the nerve. You guys scare me. So some things I've noticed I train out of here at all. God bless. Pain. That you guys do that we don't do. So stand by. So this is something that we hear. You just shut up and don't say anything. Whereas I will say the full call stand by. So it was different being on. Don't ask me when I clear you for departure either, if I can just put that in real quick. I'm not just going to put that in real quick. If kind of like Montgomery, you want to ask even before you taxi, right? Before at Montgomery, let us know ahead of time because we can do it. We have the capabilities of it. We want to provide you guys everything that you need, but again, it's the workload on the controllers for us. If I extend somebody upwind, continue upwind to follow. If I ever say that or we ever say that, I don't want you just to keep going upwind. If I say Cessna 2 Sierra X-ray, continue upwind to follow the Cherokee 2 miles southwest. If you guys get them in sight, I would expect you to turn crosswind to follow. Does that make sense? Would you guys do that? Or just keep going like 4 miles west? I would expect if I tell you to continue upwind to follow and you report traffic in sight that you're going to turn crosswind to follow. So I forget who was saying, don't come back and ask us again am I clear to land? That was in Montgomery. Just if you don't have them in sight, let us know and we'll call your crosswind. Easy, easy. Does anyone fly a Cirrus? Okay, we can talk offline. Helicopters. So Palomar has Civic helicopters, and they don't like them there. So we take them at Ramona. And we have these little Robinson R-22 helicopters that are all day long on both sides of the runway on Taxiway Alpha and on the South Helipad doing preventive control operations, meaning we don't step in and say anything unless there's a hazard or unless CAL FIRE or a small plus aircraft is going to fly and we need to put them down so they don't have wake turbulence issues. So you'll see helicopters, repetitive operations all the time at Ramona. Runway 9, Santa Ana winds, there's no run-up on runway 9. Go to the base of the tower, ask for the compass rose. If you need a run-up, we have IFR departures who are trying to get out, or we have CAL FIRE that needs to go out, or you're a student pilot and you're trying to use all your cross-country time, so you sit there for 45 minutes at the road. No run up there. And so some upcoming construction that we have, CAL FIRE, the S2 tankers. Does anyone fly in Ramona here? Just making sure to have a couple people here. So CAL FIRE flies out of Ramona. It's kind of a big deal for us. It's job security, right? We are replacing the S2 tankers, not we. They are with C-130s up in this next year. So that'll be neat, but that means construction because our runway is not strong enough to hold the repetitive operations of C-130s. So keep that in mind for wake turbulence issues, for those fires pop up out of nowhere. So just keep that in mind when those planes are there. That's going to be a big change. And one last comment on trainees. So Ramona is a constant training facility. Besides myself, I've been there 10. There's another controller that's been there 6, and then everybody else is new. And there's always new because they're always moving and going to different places. So we get certified on the level of traffic that you have. So if we have a trainee who's here through the rainy season right now, they're going to get qualified on rainy season traffic, right? So in July, when you're swamped and you have a gazillion airplanes in the pattern, just understand that new controller has not, they're qualified to work, but they have not seen that level of traffic or that workload as well. You get certified on what you see. So keep that in mind with that. Other than that, you guys do a great job. Just I appreciate you keeping us employed, and it's been fun. I feel like my personal journey, and I know there's a few instructors up here though too, I have been like a 10 times better controller since I've been flying. Would you guys say that too? You're better at. It's awesome. It's really cool to see it from the other side. So I wish all controllers were pilots. It's awesome to see. Thank you guys.
All right, my name is Christopher Maravich. This is Rob Hurlbert. We're both from Gillespie Airport. I'm the talker, he's not, so I'll take care of all this. We're Gillespie. We're like the redheaded stepchild. We're just out there. Oh, no offense. Yeah, we're just out there. You can come by. We got nothing to do out in East County. That's why I'm the only one drinking water. Everybody else has got alcohol because we got no stress out there. But there's a lot of stuff was pointed out here that like I didn't actually write anything until I listened to everybody else talk, and then I got little bullet points. Same thing. ATIS, general knowledge. We have a book called like the 7110.65, which is all our rules. We can't make anything lighter, but we can make it stricter. We, on a local level, are not allowed to accept runway, like we have the numbers or all that stuff. Locally, we have to say, we need to know that you have the ATIS and the letter with your call sign. So people are like, oh, we got the numbers. I'm like, yeah, I need to know you have Foxtrot, and then you have to say it with your call sign. That's something on the local level, and a lot of towers have that. And maybe he'll tell you a story after from yesterday or the day before. Or today. Was that today? Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. He'll tell you just a little tidbit about that. Something about Gillespie is we're in between a lot of Bravos, and our we have 2 departures. Our north departure goes through Miramar Final, so there's always F-18s and F-35s on Final, so there's delays. Our Mission Bay 2 departure, even though it goes south, it goes through Miramar's Final. So if there's a guy on Final from Miramar or a guy on Final from Montgomery, the Mission Bay 2 departure can't be released. So in saying that, 2 things. If you're IFR in the run-up, call us in the run-up. Don't pull up to the line because odds are you're not getting out right away.
Montgomery seconds that? Yeah.
There you go. Just call up in the run-up. We'll give you your squad code. And another thing we do at Gillespie that I don't know if anybody else does, we don't give you your squad code because, and this is prior to me getting there, maybe. Yeah, it's been there since and it's one of those things we just do. We've had many pilots depart IFR because ground would give them the squad code and they'd be like, we're ready to go. And like, if we don't see the strip or anything, because a lot of us are stripped, we have no strips except for the IFRs. We're like, Roger, 216 circle back, clear for takeoff, say direction of flight. And we're like, oh, northbound, and they're actually IFR. Like, so it's kind of like a second level. It's how the controller knows that you're IFR. We need to request release, and we don't give you the squad code. That only the tower controller has that squad code. So you know you're not going to depart without a squad code because it's like part of your checklist. That's one thing. Let me see. And yeah, there are delays at our airport, and we don't want you to block the runway, so we ask you to stay over there. In saying that, we have VFR practice approaches. One mimics the Mission Bay 2 departure, which is a right turn heading 165 and gets you, which is, I think, 3.5 miles away from the initial approach fix to the ILS to Montgomery. So when people are like, oh, we like to be at Montgomery because of their ILS, well, you depart Gillespie, You're 3 miles away, you're on the ILS, and you can come back. So it's not like I'm trying to sell our airport because they're 10 times busier than us. But there's no joke at Gillespie that we'll be sitting there doing nothing or one in the pattern, and we'll just be looking at Montgomery on the scope and be like, that's really funny. I'm sorry, but, and I mean, no offense to you guys, but it's hilarious. We're like, we got a Cub that's doing only crosswinds and short approaches that we forget about because we're laughing how busy you guys are.
The funny thing is,
yeah.
we also have the Cubs, you just don't see them.
Oh, there you go.
So the transponder equipped aircraft.
But yeah, anybody at like Montgomery, come by. And I know I realized this lately. I'm guessing because of the option issues, you don't really do stop and goes because you just don't have enough space for a stop and go. So we do a lot of full stop taxi backs and stop and goes at our airport because of that. Like CAU, whoever was part of that, we see your planes a lot. Plus ones don't have any markings, so I really don't know. Let's see. But yeah, I'm saying, yeah, we have the Mission Bay 2 departure, and we have the 340, which is basically the same services from approach control. You're just VFR. There is a call for release, but you're VFR, so the separation standards are completely different. We clear you through the Class Bravo at the tower level, so you don't have to worry about that. So you get all those services that way, which we prefer, and approach control prefers. Another thing is, if you can't accept runway 27 left, when we say enter left downwind, runway 27 left, and we clear to land, you're like, we can't accept the left. Like, come on. Also, I don't personally like it, and just because I've seen more issues with it. If you can't accept the left and you're coming on the GPS 17, you're literally crossing the downwind of 27 right, then you're crossing the downwind of 27 left, then you're crossing downwind of 27 left again as you're trying to go base for 27 right. So you're crossing 4 different aircraft. It's a pain, but if you need the right, let us know. Also, you can circle to the north on a GPS 17, so that becomes problematic too. But at least then I know if you can't accept it, I'll keep you a little bit higher and keep you away from our traffic, as most people do. You go, sure. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
No. If you can't take the left, because it's a circling approach that has to circle to the south side of the field, you can't circle to the north side. So if you say you can't take the left, let us know really early because it's a lot of planning for us to do. We gotta make spacing on the north side and make spacing on the south side twice and sequence you on final. Right, cross midfield and. Yeah, like on check-in, just tell us you need 27 right, so we can make all those plans, because it is a lot of like splitting traffic. Let me see. You may realize lately, and this is something more local that we've been doing in the last 3 months, we're splitting frequencies. Well, they have like local north and local south, or however they want to split it. We used to have only local south open and local assist would assist, so there was always a body over there. And I'm the facility representative, so me and the manager talked about, since that body's there, we've decided that we're going to, instead of just having him help the position, we were just going to split the positions. So you may hear like now a lot more 1, 2, 3.8s open. There's no negatives to it. I mean, it sucks with the rotation a little bit because you can shut down local assist easier than you can recut Nietis and everything, but you're going to hear at Gillespie a lot more the tower split frequencies. You'll get better services. We also only have 1 trainee right now, so it's a little bit easier to do that. When we have more trainees, we may want them to see a little bit busier traffic, so we might combine it up more, but keep a real eye on the ATIS, because the ATIS will say we're split or not, and even if it does, we still get people checking on the wrong frequency because they're just so used to that, but we don't mind. Let's see, somebody was talking about where you're doing maneuvers. Please don't be over Crest. I know it's a beautiful city, I'm guessing, because I've never been there, but everybody loves to be at 3,500 feet over Crest, right on our ILS approach. Our localizer approach. Try to stay either north or south of it. If you're going to do a practice approach on the localizer, call us. We'll give you a code, or maybe not even a code, and then we'll just watch you. And you can have the same services, like coming in on localizer, and we'll circle you around. Let's see. really? Oh, somebody was talking about it. If you're on 2-7 left at Gillespie, you're at the hold short line. So a lot of, I won't say a lot, maybe 50% of the controllers, you say, this is 216 Circle Back, ready at 2-7 left. I'll say standby, because we've gotten guidance that that's legal. You can say standby to any aircraft. You don't have to worry about hold short instruction. So like a lot of us will just say standby, so we don't have to go back and forth with the hold short instructions, especially if we're not going to move you up onto the line at that point. I'm trying to think, anything else that you could really think of? Those are all the notes I really had. But if you do say, if I say hold short, and I need you to say hold short with your call sign. I don't know, Montgomery, between the runways, are you still on local, or do you actually switch them to ground? Okay, so same with us. If you're between the runways, you're on locals frequency. Don't switch to ground. Yeah, and honestly, I heard that, but there's some like standard operating procedures. Some airports, once you're off the runway, you contact ground. I mean, yeah. So, but we have a few. The pilots who are not familiar with us always switch between the runways. It is what it is.
What about just recognizing you're clear of all runways? Wouldn't that be a fine time to contact ground?
Oh, if you get off, like at our facility, if you get off of 2-7, if you get off of 2-7 left, and there's like no, you're there at your taxiway, contact ground. I mean, I know we were talking about this because he's a pilot actually. Like you're technically supposed to wait for it, but no one's going to yell at you for contact. Once you get off that runway, if you get off on the north side of 2-7 right or the south side of 2-7 left, I have no use as local control. I mean, I really don't. I mean, yeah. Usually they're like, can we contact ground? I'm like, have a good day. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's just me. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Any questions about Gillespie's operation? I see your hand.
So I had a situation before where I was solo in the pattern,
Okay.
and the person in front of me was going super wide, which was unfamiliar from what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the controller if I could do like a right 360 to, in my head, make it so I could turn sooner than extend my crosswind super far.
Okay.
And they were like, "Oh, I'll call your crosswind." So I'm like, "Oh shit, that's not really what I wanted."
You'll call your crosswind? Base?
Or sorry, they'll call my down, they turn it down.
Oh, you were upwind, and you were trying to create your own space, or your downwind?
I was already crosswind, and I was wanting to turn my downwind sooner than the plane that was already way far out.
Oh, you mean you were trying to cut him off? Like, oh, okay.
Without saying this person in front of me is not calling right.
We have, honestly, I can tell you, we have one school that will call out all the other schools on their pattern, like, how far is he going to fly down and stuff like that. And in all fairness, and this is just me from doing this for like 15 years, like, I'll call out that person if it's really egregious, or if there's a lot of things going on and they're really screwing my pattern and like I'm really have to watch, or people are cutting them off. I'll be honest, I've sometimes said, I'm like, it depends on how bad it is, but I mean, like, their training, I see it as their training too, and like, I know that some of them are go a bit wider, and I'll even say, can you tighten it up a little bit, keep it a little closer to the field, or we have a published pattern actually on runway 27 left, so that's a little bit easier to follow, but yeah, the 360 on the downwind, if you wanted to, or extend, I just want to verify, you were trying to get, because if you wanted to get in front of them, then I could have maybe amended it, like, yeah, so-and-so, I'll call your base and you can cut in front of them. I'd have to see the situation at hand, like.
I'm trying to tighten up the pattern without calling them out, so what would be a good way to phrase call?
I mean, like I said, I literally know of a pilot who will be like, is he going to fly this far downwind, or where is he? The best is when they call out, is he a downwind departure? No, he's in the pattern. Like, I mean, that's a good way to put it. Is the guy in front of me a downwind departure? Yeah. No, he's not. He's just flying wide. And then you would hope they would kick in a little, like, can you keep it a little tighter? Like I said, it just depends on the situation. You could call people out. I can't call people out. I mean, I can in my own way, but.
You call people out, it helps us.
Yeah.
It's probably ATP anyway.
Buy them a beer, whoever said that.
Wait, can ATP line 28 left?
No.
Okay. It's not. I just know, like, we had the same issue with that. And that was where the GPS 17 was really, like, that was the initiator of our big problems, because we'd be like, GPS 17 Port Hyrac, which is literally over the field, and we'd be like, circle south, only 27 left, clear the line, unable, 27 left. I'm like, oh, you got, but then we finally memorized call signs, but now that they're not with us anymore, I have no idea who ATP's planes are. But it is what it is.
We don't know their call signs either.
Oh, really?
They're constantly.
I'm trying to think. Good.
We're going to get to questions in just a second, as soon as Chris is done.
My biggest reason I want to come here is, like we said earlier, you guys are chasing each other at Montgomery, and it looks like chaos on the radar screen. And if you make the 6-minute flight from Montgomery to Gillespie, you'll be like number 2 or number 3. I mean, since COVID, we have not recovered. And if you guys don't want to be number 6 or 7 in the pattern, just make the 6-minute flight over to Gillespie, and we will accommodate almost any request. Yeah. Yeah. But I do want to reiterate, too, like, the ATIS is very important. Yesterday, I had an airplane first call. He's 3 miles southeast of the field. I'm declaring emergency. My engine's overheating. I need to land right away. All right. Enter left base, 27 right, cleared to land. He comes in, lands safely, taxis off. And then an hour later, my manager lets me know that he didn't have the ATIS. So just keep that in mind, that the ATIS for all of us up here is extremely important.
What turned into an award turned into...
Yeah, to a reminder, you missed...
Recognition, and you got a piece of paper in your file that says, great job, turned
Yeah.
into, you messed up.
So...
I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, it's an agency thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So it is important. And that's why you'll see a lot of people we have certain controllers, like, I'll let you get away with a little bit, like, runway 27 left, taxi via, verify you have mission alpha, roger, we have alpha, what's your call sign, 27 alpha. Me personally, I'm 15, I let it go, because I'll make that fight. But there's a lot of controllers. Oh, the average controller right now in our facility, like, it's, where are you at? 12?
Yeah.
12 years, 15 years. Well, there's like one other that's 10 years, and then there's 9 or 10 controllers that have less than maybe 18 months. Wow. I was in the tower once with 7 other people, and the other 6 still weren't as many years as I was, like, in total. We have ours is a very big training facility, and we have a lot of turnover. And that's what the agency wants, these facilities to train these guys and then go up into the middle, into the higher level facilities. We just sent 2. Yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
3 going to Montgomery.
We need them over there.
Huh?
We need
Yeah,
'em.
they do. And their staffing numbers went up. Every facility has a certain number of staffing that they need for fully staffing. Ours, for example, is 15. Yours went from, 11 to 19 in 12 months.
Yeah.
So we sent 3 over there. They backfill us with academy grads, CTI schools, military rehires. Right now, you guys can't accept any of those because you're at a higher level. So we're a training facility too. So try to, and like somebody else was mentioning, we have a lot of people who have been certified in the last 18 months who has not really seen busy traffic at Gillespie. Yeah. Oh, sorry. We've had a lot of people certified. We've had a lot of people certified in the last 18 months that have not seen busy traffic like we used to have pre-COVID. So like you were saying, like if it gets certified and gets busy this summer, which we have, and it's funny because now we've just started this new splitting thing and it's been getting busier and we've been having busy days. When we can't do that, you might have some controllers that will have a learning curve to get back to that and not necessarily put on an ATIS reduced services, but you may see like unable because they're getting to their comfort level of busyness too. So bear with us, we bear with you. That's pretty much how it is.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions.
I had a couple other things.
So raise your hand if you have a question. I'll just repeat it for the people online, and then whoever needs to answer online. Dave's got that. Yes, sir.
First, I appreciate all of you dealing with my thick accent. I can only imagine how terrible I sound over the radio. I asked this question to a couple of CFIs, multiple CFIs, because some of them are in the room, but there's some dissension. That's why I'm going to ask you guys. One time I'm coming into Montgomery on IFR flight plan. The controller before the 2435 asked what approach I request. I said, ILS 28 right. He said, expect that. And I'm in the 2435, the controller said fly heading 250 without clearing for the approach or any indication like except the localizer or anything. When I'm about to pass the localizer signal, and actually I end up passing because I couldn't mic in, hey, am I cleared? So much traffic on the radio, so much talking. Finally, she comes to me and say, where are you going? I'm like, about to get into the Lindbergh's approach field, but hey, you never cleared me for the approach. So in this situation, am I supposed to turn or stay on the course because I'm given heading 250?
That's one of those situations where
You got a microphone.
See something, say something type situation. You know you're not cleared. You know you're going to cross that final and go right into Lindbergh. I guarantee you Lindbergh's busy. Join it. Tell them where you are. Hey, am I cleared? Speak up. We get real busy. Maybe they thought they cleared you and they didn't. Maybe they put you on a 250 heading and said, fly heading 250, join the final. And they just threw it in there at the last minute. You didn't catch it. Maybe he or she didn't say it. Don't go across that Montgomery final. That's one of those ones, that localizer. Coming from the Northeast, we are very, just like the Brown approach, we're very alert to that. Like as soon as you get near it, if I don't see you turning, we're on it. What are you doing? What's going on? Start your turn northbound. And what are you doing is one of those ones where we try not to say that. Because the what are you doing, that's something that's going on in our mind. You say, what are you doing? And what comes out is turn right heading, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? Is everything okay? Are you joining? After an instruction, typically. But, yeah, so in that situation, if you heard 250 and you recognize that you're coming up on the localizer, just reach out and ask. Hey, am I cleared? Do you want me to join?
So much communication on the radio with the big boys that I couldn't mic in.
You gonna hit one of those big boys. Yeah, no, seriously. Yes. Yeah. I would say for Montgomery, Darty, would you?
For Montgomery?
Yeah.
So he's right. If you don't say vector across final, he's supposed to go across final.
Yeah.
If he doesn't say vector across final, he's supposed to go across final. Technically, he's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But Montgomery is in this sandwich of airports.
That's a specific to Montgomery thing.
Very specific.
Yeah.
And, legally, he's supposed to go across final. But if somebody doesn't say vector across final, and you don't have time to go across final, it would be in your best interest to join the final.
And that's the more important part, is when you're coming up on it, if there's something that you can intercept, we say heading 250, don't give you a clearance. Hey, heading 250, do you want me to intercept? Just say it. So we can also be clear on it, but that's a specific to Montgomery thing.
I don't mean to hijack the meeting, but so for Montgomery, in that case, we're going to find either whether cleared or not. But in some airports, stay on the course.
Just were you
Yes.
VFR or IFR?
IFR.
Okay.
IFR.
Just ask the question. That's all it is. Just ask the question. You know you're going to cross the
Yeah,
final,
like he
right?
said.
I couldn't because of so much communication on the radio. Everyone else is like legally in the mic before me.
Press the ident button.
Yeah, the legal answer is yes. If we didn't clear you for it, if we didn't, we just put you on a heading, didn't tell you to join, legally, yes, you can cross. That's on us.
So I'll take it a step further. Your IMC, okay? So IFR,
Conway.
VFR, flight plan, IMC, VMC conditions.
Conway.
Right? I don't need a mic.
It's the guys online that need to hear you.
Okay, so talking about VFR, IFR, IMC, VMC. Okay, now you're IMC. Now you're going to be heightened as to what you think you should be doing. Okay, if we do not do our jobs as air traffic control, and you feel you need to intercept that course because of terrain, because you're looking at your profile on that plate and saying there's terrain out there, join the final. Protect yourself. If we don't do our job, then we'll have to account for that on our end, and we'll have to answer for that, right? But again, you guys are PICs up there. Fly the airplane. If you feel you're in a precarious position, put yourself in a non-precarious position, and then we'll talk about it later, right? There's always the answer afterwards, right? So legally, technically, fly across the final. If you're in VMC conditions, okay, yeah, and then, again, turn the plane if you feel you're going into Lindbergh's final, right? But there's always so many layers to what's going on. If you have no situation awareness outside that cockpit and you're single pilot IMC, turn on the final. Protect yourselves. Get home safe. And I say this because we all know at one point we had a Skyline in the club who flew himself into a mountain going to Santa Monica, right? Should have hit the 095 rated off of Van Nuys, turned in the final. If the probably thought it was a C-fit, didn't happen, you know, and I don't know, it might have been a medical issue up there, but always take care of yourselves up there, right? So think about it again. IMC versus VMC, VFR versus IFR flight plans. Again, think about it in those realms, all right?
All right, we have one more back here, Rand, and then
Usually they will clear you to cross it anyway. If that's their intent of having you cross it, at least it's not a debate. The only thing I really wanted to add was, if you guys are having trouble training at Montgomery because how busy the pattern is, you can either do the 6-minute flight like Rob said, or we've got some nice aircraft. Shameless plug.
it was. Yes, sir.
I was down at Brown this spring, and there was an ATC from SoCal, and he was talking about their desire for you to get flight following all the time, or practically all the time. And I said, okay, I'm going to go home from Brown up through Ramona. If I have flight following, I'm cleared through everything. Do I have to get off flight following frequency and get a clearance to get through Ramona's airspace before I can continue on with flight following? And he said, class deltas are a problem.
He said what? Say,
Class deltas are a problem with flight following. Some of them will clear you through it, some of them won't.
so I'm not 100% sure what you mean there, but you have to be talking to the tower to go into a class delta. Period, full stop.
So my flight following does not clear me through delta.
So you were at Brown, and where did you say your destination was on the flight following?
I'm going to Panama.
So
Over Ramona, turn left and go to Panama.
At what altitude?
35.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Why are you going over Ramona on the way to Palomar, Ron?
What?
And so I want to go through the Ramona. I want to go transition through Ramona. But if I get flight following on Class Charlie's, it takes me right through.
So flight following doesn't take you through anything. Flight following tells, we put you in the system that you're at Brown and you want to go to, if you told us Palomar, then that's what it says on there. It doesn't say I want to go over to Ramona and do all that. Flight following doesn't give you permission to go through any airspace, any Bravo, any other Delta, anything. It just says, I'm here and I want to go here, and I want to talk to someone along the way to keep me out of trouble. So possibly someone's doing you a disservice by not switching you, but I don't know what Krista's airspace goes up to. 38. So
It should just
so,
be
so
a point out
if you're gonna
situation. I
if
don't
you're gonna
see why we're
penetrate a Delta,
overcomplicating this.
you need to talk to the tower. And if a no, or
All right, hey, can I? All right.
So
this,
what you're asking is basically flight following.
This is just a point out. Right.
So we can call at the TRACON. You're getting flight following. You talk to Brown. You said you want to go to Palomar. You get up. You talk to us. Say, hey, I'd like to fly over Ramona to get to Palomar. We will either switch you to the tower, and you can transit their Delta, or we'll call up Ramona and say, hey, point out. So we'll point them out to you, or we'll point you out to them so they see you. You have a code. That's the part that I don't know, specifically what controller you ran into that told you, Charlie's our problem or Delta's our problem. It's not a problem. It's an added layer that we have to account for. If you want to go that low and go through a Delta, we will either switch you to that Delta, or we'll terminate services if you insist on going through it, and we'll just switch you over to them, or we get the point out.
Okay, so flight following, I still have to get approval to go through airspace.
Yes. So either you have to get it or we get it for you. Someone always knows that where you are, what you're doing. If you're going through a Delta.
Okay, there's a little bit of confusion here. First of all, I didn't realize that Brownfield does not take point outs. My airspace is north of that. That's different than any of my situation. But if you depart Riverside and you're on flight following and you want to fly all the way to El Monte, you hit Ontario, Chino, Brackett, El Monte. The whole point of flight following, in my view, is so that you talk to one person. You're not going to talk to Chino and Brackett and El Monte. You want it flight following all the way through. So if you get flight following with me, I'm the controlling agency. You have two-way communication. You go all the way through there, that's fine. It's on me to get these point outs. A point out means that I ask the tower with a keystroke, hey, do you want to talk to this guy? And he says, point out approved. That's the communication on my end. If I can't do that, if I'm too busy or they're not taking the point out, maybe their pattern is so booked that they're like, I can't let this guy go through, then I'll either say remain outside of Chino class Delta. If you go in it then it's on you. If I say stay out of Chino class Delta, it's because they're booked. But if I say nothing, if you keep asking me, can I have a frequency change to Chino? Can I have a frequency change to Brackett? That's not what the whole point of flight following is, to be a seamless transition from one airport to another. And it's on me now to make sure that two-way communication is to Ontario, which is Charlie, or all the deltas in between. And either you go through with me and you're good until you get to El Monte, or I will tell you specifically, don't go in Chino's Delta, or if you really need to talk to Chino because maybe you need special VFR, that's a thing. But flight following, that's the whole point, is that you talk to one person, I take care of all of it. That does not include Bravo. You can't use flight following to go into Bravo. You got to get a whole different clearance for that.
You go clear through all the Charlies and everything, and you only have to do special flight rules to go to
Yeah, if you were talking to me for flight following from Banning all the way to El Monte, and you kept asking me, do you want me to talk to Chino now? Do you want me to talk to Brackett now? I would wonder why. I will tell you if you have flight following. That's why flight following is great. Stay out of Bravo.
All right, hang on a second. Krista, did you have something? We only got a little bit left. Okay, all right. Yeah.
Okay, so I've had it personally where someone's called me over Mount Soledad at Gillespie, and they ripped right through Montgomery in the process, and that's not flight following. I mean, I don't have the ability to point out to Montgomery that they're going to come through your airspace, so I've created the habit where I'll tell you, remain outside Montgomery's airspace, make left traffic, runway 27 left. So SCT, they give you flight following through all the good stuff. I can't do that for you. So if you're calling the tower, you probably have to remain outside all the other airspaces that are around us.
Let's see if I can simplify for y'all real quick. So flight following, right? Point to point. Brown to Camarillo. You're going to talk to SoCal. You're going to leave your Delta. You're going to climb to altitude, maybe get a Bravo clearance, and then you're going to get a 02 code, or maybe even a NAS code because you're going to go outside of our airspace, whatever. Low level, we have what's known as tower to tower, right? So what Mike was talking about with the infamous that doesn't exist Bay tour that everybody loves to do, okay, that's low level stuff. So you're talking to Montgomery Tower, you're talking to Lindbergh Tower, Island Tower, going back to Lindbergh Tower, hooking back around. So you're always going to be on a frequency if you're low level. So there's tower to tower, flight following if you want to think about it in realms of that perspective, or when you climb to altitude en route to a destination, now you're getting flight following from another facility being SoCal Tracon, right? Or LA Center, or any other facility you're going to across the country, right? So we try to break this down and try to teach you folks how to use the NAS to your advantage, right? So when you're low level and you know you want to go from point to point, low level, tower to tower. If you know you want to get to a cruise altitude, you're probably going to get some flight following at some point from some type of radar facility, okay? Does that kind of clear it up a little bit better? Okay.
All right, Kathleen.
That is the east remaining 5 airports, and so I wanted to get the air traffic controller's perspective, but I see these VFR pilots going down the Brown, right on the corridor, the west side of San Miguel. Do you favor us going to the east side of it, so we're not cutting off that arrival down the Brown, because it seems like the instrument approaching the Brown is cutting off Gillespie's, Montgomery's approach, right? So wouldn't it be better if our VFR guys went to the west side of San Miguel? I'm sorry, the east side of San Miguel instead of the west? Isn't that delaying the instrument at arrival, allowing us to do the instrument practice approach down there because we've got someone on the east side of that? And a the distinct voices up here, your kindness with the student pilots, when you're kind on the frequency, it makes all the difference in the world, and it's super noticeable with you guys. And Montgomery Tower's so busy that kindness goes a lot longer way than maybe scolding someone. So I just want to thank you as an instructor for that.
So you're talking specifically about coming into Brown and what side of Miguel you should be on?
Talking about from the Tracons side of it, when you guys would favor.
If you're out of the Bravo, you're low enough to where you're not going to be in the arrival corridor. So Penny is at 2,500 as a crossing altitude. So if you were west of San Miguel, the Bravo airspace is low enough to where you wouldn't necessarily be. Now, if you're orbiting there, that's kind of a pain in the ass.
If someone's going from Brown northbound, and someone, doesn't that delay you allowing an instrument practice approach inbound?
It could. I mean, if you're just like.
Sean, grab a mic.
If you're going from Montgomery to Brown and you're low level and you're, if you're going Brown back north, it could get in the way. But if you're just like going there and you're not messing around too much and circling over Nesty, we'll just figure it out. It's our problem. If you're gonna mess around there and do steep turns over Mount Helix, then all right, yeah, it's a little bit of an issue. Yeah. I mean, we care, but I mean, it's built that way on purpose. Yeah.
Okay, we got some time for just a few more questions, and then whoever wants to hang around, you can try to pester them.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I was talking to FISDO a couple of months ago, and they're saying there are about 200 violations a month. And I'm wondering how many of those are, hey, would you please call this number possible pilot deviation? Are most of those going into airspace, and how can we improve as CFIs to be aware of the airspace?
Well, I'll say this, it's our duty, first and foremost, we're basically directors of the script, directors of the movie, right? We have to know the script, right? Part of that airspace is what we do. So when pilots come through, Class Charlies, Bravos, whatever, we have to tag them up. We follow with a call sign. If we can't issue the Brasher alert, it goes on to the next facility wherever they're going, right? So if, say again?
Do you know why their iPad 4 flight?
Oh, I'm not in the plane.
GPS, do you have any idea?
I mean, we hear a myriad of excuses, right? A big part of it is, I'm going to say this, you all are flying in some of the most congested airspace in the world. Okay, we do stuff that other countries would dream to do, right? That's why I say every flight starts on the ground. We live under Bravo, we live under Charlie, right, throughout Southern California. So when you go up on a flight, bring up your charts, right? If if your subscription has failed, you should have your paper charts on board. I'll take that another step further, right? Your iPad can die. Where's Bob at? All right, I'm gonna tell you a story. So Bob was he certified me years ago in my first area at the Tracon, right? And we had an emergency, and the pilot said my iPad died. No kidding. The iPad went black on him. Do you have your paper charts on board? Oh, well, right? So we have the technology, and I'm sure the CFIs who are well-versed and been in the game for a while talk about this stuff. The EFBs are cool, but paper never dies on you, okay? And if you don't have the paper, right, I said again, I don't know what's going on in the cockpit. If you tell on yourself on the frequency or when you call, that's on you, right? But if you go to SkyVector and write down your route or the frequencies or whatever you need to do to make sure that you stay out of the appropriate airspace, do it. But if you violate, we're going to have a conversation as far as what we need to do on the air traffic side is forwarding that up to our people, which really stays in-house, and then FISDO gets it from there from our QA department. We have no qualms after that, right? But if it's something that egregious, then we will follow up with it. If it's a near midair or if another pilot calls saying they were dissatisfied with the service or another pilot almost hit them, right? So places, let's say like, for instance, French Valley. French Valley needs a tower, in my opinion. Right, I've almost been smacked about 5 times myself. We don't have control over that, but right, take it up with your airmen on the ground, right? IFR departures off certain airports, Whiteman's, your Coronas, all those places like that. If you can leave VFR, right? And you have anybody that goes out of French Valley a lot? IFR? Yes, no, maybe so. No? Okay, it's all local here. Anywho, but to answer your question, sir, in totality, we don't really deal with the FISDO.
I just wondered if the FISDO talked to you about after you turned it
Well, I believe that we talk to the FAST team here and so often, then they'll send out the memos and to the airmen and whatnot, but really it's more of an educational piece, unless it's something that's that egregious that we follow up with it, and then we'll get the pilot cert number, we'll get the contact info, and we'll pursue it from there. And whatever FSDO decides to do with it, that's what they do. They're the sky police, not us.
Or worst case scenario, turn off your transponder and your master. And I'm kidding, don't do that, don't do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, for those of us going outside of Southern California, you guys are some of the best that I've worked with. So thank you for that. Question for Mike. Objectionable parachute operations. A lot of us like to fly in a little area, come over to Brown. I've gotten different answers from different controls and different answers from you. Like, sometimes I'll call objectionable, tell them I'm coming across, and they'll say, okay, we'll hold our jumpers or whatever. And then I'll call into you. Sometimes I call into you to say, you need to talk to objectionable. Sometimes I talk to objectionable, and then I call you, say, you called me too late. I'm kind of confused as what's the best way to get through there safely.
So it's Nichols Field, right? They're on that eastern finger of Otay Lakes, the point out to the east. So they're supposed to tell us when they're dropping. They don't always tell us when they're dropping. They start up and we see a skydive 1 or skydive 2. Oh, Nichols is hot. Okay, so we don't always know, and we can't necessarily see when they've dropped. Right? We'll see a target go over. It's not tagged up to us. We don't see the call sign displayed. So there's nothing in the FARs that stop you from flying through a jump zone. Right? So it's nothing that I can write you up for. But when you're flying through that area, if you call us on the east side of it and we happen to know that Nichols is hot, and you haven't said that you've talked to them, I'm going to try to keep you out of that area or ask you if you've called them. So if you've called Nichols or objection, whatever they call themselves, I know it says objectionable on the charts, but it's Nichols Field. If you call us out to the east and say that you've talked to them and they've cleared you through the airspace, I don't have a problem with it. I can't legally keep you out of that airspace, but I'm going to try to keep you out of that airspace. I'm going to give you a turn or something because I don't want you, having a parachute trailing from your nose with some guy flapping on the bottom of it. It's not good. Okay, most of our traffic comes by Miguel and comes down and stays over or west of those lakes, right? So do you know where the field is, where Nichols is, that strip? It's a 1 mile radius. So it's not a huge divert to go around. So if you're out to the east, aim for the top of the lakes, right? And depending on your heading, that should keep you out of the zone. Obviously the terrain is rougher if you go further south, but go south, head towards the prison and call us kind of on a long 45 towards the prison. Or go through Otay. I mean, I can't stop you from going through Otay. It's just not a good place to be. If you talk to Nichols and they give you permission to go through because they're not jumping or everyone's on deck, just tell us that. And then we have a warm fuzzy that you're not going to do something bad. It depends if we know what they're doing as to how we respond to you and what you say to us. So, and I know you want to wrap this up. I have believe it or not, I have a couple of saved rounds from earlier that I just didn't cover. I'll just go over 2. So the second Saturday of the month, the second Saturday of every month is Young Eagles Day down at Brown Field at the EAA. Okay? So please, don't send a student solo down to Brown Field on the second Saturday of the month before noon or 1 because I'll work them, but if it becomes a problem, I'm going to send them away or they're going to get full stop taxi vector. So, they're not going to get their pattern in that you want them to get. Don't do it. Don't come down on the second Saturday of the month, any of you, and expect, a lot of pattern work, especially stop and goes or any of that, on the second Saturday of the month before 12 or 1 o'clock. Because I'm going to get those aircraft through with those kids, right? So we'll work you after they're done. And someone mentioned the Bay Tour. When you're coming down the VFR corridor, let's call it, and you're at the south end of the corridor, and all our IFR departures depart Brown Field on a 280 heading climbing to 4,000. If you look at the charts, a 280 heading off the end of my runway goes right at the southern end of the bay. So you got Gulfstream, Citations, Galaxies, whatever, heading right to the southern end of the bay, climbing to 4,000. So you're out of my airspace. You don't have to be talking to me. Be aware that those aircraft are departing my field, going to that spot. So call me as soon as you can, and I may send you to Pogey, or I may keep going south for the left traffic for the left runway, and that's why, because there's someone coming your way that you don't want to be in front of. So.
All right, I got 2 more questions. One here.
Question here. I'm at from Montgomery, but if anyone can answer, just help me clear some stuff up. I fly with one of the red blue schools in Montgomery. I'm not going to say which one because they'll come back and get me. But so we have a lot of commercial students, and one of the issues that we have is we're not entirely sure what we mean by short approach. When we're taught, when we're doing what we call a power off 180, we'll be with a downwind about a beat to whatever point you want to touch down at with full power on a circle wind. That being said, is that considered a short approach, or if it was more like a pattern, should we just say it's good for the option? What is your definition of a short approach?
I'd love somebody here to answer that. What is your definition of a short approach?
You ever see a
Tom.
Piper Cubs do the short approach? If you're looking at the numbers when you're on base, that's a short approach.
So think of the purpose behind the maneuver. A short approach, when we're issuing a short approach, we want you to get to the runway as soon as possible. That is what we're expecting from you. We're initially giving it to you to put you inside of an aircraft on a straight in. So that short approach maneuver is, hey, I'm getting down as fast as possible. So when you're requesting a short approach, but then doing a power off 180 in which you're turning base over the freeway, we're kind of laughing at you up there a little bit because it's not a short approach. Don't bother asking. If you know you're number 1 to the runway in particularly, oh yeah, we don't care. Please don't ask unless you want to turn in over cubic, basically, or not, what's solar turbine there. But if you're going to be just doing commercial maneuvers, power off 180, you're a flight instructor, you're aware. You know when you're number 2 where that guy is to follow and kind of what that spacing needs to look like. No need to ask for that short approach if you're just doing a power off 180 and you're still planning on turning a semi-normal base. Okay. Does that answer that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, one more.
Question, a non-instrument rated but student instrument, or instrument student, can they do maintaining VFR practice approaches into Montgomery?
By themselves?
Yeah.
Not under the hood. You're not doing that, are you?
No, but I'm being told by, half of people I talk to say, yeah, sure, maintain VFR, then you're fine. The other half says, no.
Yeah, no,
Right.
You're just using navigation, or you're,
Practicing.
you can't do that by yourself.
Do you have a safety pilot on board with you?
Was it not under the hood? Not under the hood.
I'm not doing any of this just for the record. I'm asking.
He's asking for a friend. Yeah.
It's a way to cover yourself.
Are you under the hood or not?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
If you're not under the hood, it's legal.
Yeah.
All right. Half of CFIs don't know that. They say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that with CFI. So.
No, if you're not under the hood,
Exactly.
Okay, you guys, to end this, we're going to do a little rock and roll call and response that I know these guys are going to appreciate. So repeat after me. I promise to read back my tail number and my runway assignment. Yay! Don't forget that.
All right. On that note. Okay, so first I just want to thank all of the controllers for coming here. This is usually one of the biggest. Yep. And if they want to stick around, then they're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to let them out this door before you guys get them. For any of the CFIs, you can put in code ATC. If you want credit, that's up to you, but code is ATC. Otherwise, the next meeting is in 2 months. It's on the website. And if you have any questions, this one will be online. If you have any other questions, you can ask me, and I'll put you in touch with these fine folks if they think that's appropriate. Thanks for coming, everybody. Yep. Absolutely.
Just so this counts for Ramona and for Brown. Our company likes to get surveys, pilot surveys to see what kind of service we're providing, how we're doing it. I have a bunch of here, handed out. There's a little code. You could just take a picture of it or whatever. If we did something good, we like to hear it. Mostly we hear when we do something bad. That's fine. Make it constructive. Here's the other little secret behind it. We at the facility don't necessarily see this in a timely manner. It depends on when you put it in and when our next meeting is. So if there's something that you need to talk to us about, my audio runs out in 45 days. If it's been longer than that, I can't go back and look at it. Krista can't go back and look at it and say, oh, you're right, this. So take a flyer or take a picture of it. If you have a criticism, please let us know. I have a bunch of cards here too. My email's on there, my cell phone's on there. Call me. The tower number's on there. Call me if you need to talk about something timely so that I can listen to the tapes and respond to it. If it's over 45 days, then I'm just playing a guessing game. It's easy to criticize. If we do something good, we would love to hear that too. All right? Whatever, good or bad. But there's plenty. I've got a few here. You can take pictures, and you can take a card. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. Done. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple months.
Yes.
I don't know if I was talking to you. It's probably back in November. I had a gear problem. Got my nose down on 2.6 left. 178 anyway, I was like, couldn't get green light, and I ended up not wanting and the nose gear. But I'm just thank you for whatever help I got from you.
Absolutely. No problem. That's why we're there. That's right.
Unfortunately, the plane is still there. It's not fixed.
Well, you know what? Take a survey and tell my boss we did a good job.
I will do
How are you? I was just, see on the young Eagles. Did you hear me? On my way to Colorado, you guys, the press there,
it was a busy young. I just got to say,
it was so much fun.
Yeah, it's good. And I love it. And then everybody wants to come down and do paddle or something like that.
Yeah,
Today's for the kids.
there were a lot of fighters that too.
For the kids.
It was
I think the moms love that. That's
And
I love that you guys do that.
Yeah. No, it's so nice. They don't get scared. Things listen. I just go, when my finger's up, everybody shut up. Because any fear, they're going to be and they see that in front of their parents. I'm like, this people shut up. Everybody just okay.
Lay down the law. You're in charge.
This is Miranda. He's the controller at Brown, and she's just starting flight training, but she's going to be out of Palm. She lives out. So I can you come down to Brown.
Well, so
yeah, you come down.
we we were shut down for a long time because of COVID, but we're open now. So if you do get down to Brown and you want to get up into a tower, just let me know. I don't know if Palomar is, but we're open. So take a card, give us a call.
Yeah, it's nice to see
All towers are basically the same. We operate in the same rules. So it's easier to answer your questions face to face in the tower. You don't have the time on the freeway. So if you're down our way, call me, come up, and say, why is he doing that? Why are you saying this? If we can answer it, if you're just flying by, we can't do it. So yeah, come on down. We'll take care. We take care of her. We'll take care of you.
Yeah, I got to go there. Bring them donuts. You have like priority.
All right.
Thank you. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.